All right, I'm going to maintain a 3-point contact, and I'm gonna take my time so you can understand, because I'm gonna maintain a 3-point contact when entering and exiting my bus. That's both hands on my rail and my feet flat on the floor. Okay. All right, I'm gonna take a seat. I'm going to check my seat belt. Close my door. Check my seat belt. Make sure it's properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged, ripped or torn, and it latches properly. And it does. Okay. All right. I'm going to check my ABS light to make sure that it comes on and it cuts off by turning my key to auxiliary to the right. My ABS light came on. You hear that noise? You should hear that click 3 times. My ABS light went out. I'm also going to check my DEF gauge to make sure that it's working properly and it's rising to the proper level, which it is. All right, I'm getting ready to begin my air governor test. I'm going to start my bus and allow my air governor to build up to 120 PSIs or higher. Before I do that, I need to fan it down because the person already had this bus. It's already at 120. Okay, so now I'm going to begin by starting my bus and allow my air governor to build up to 120 PSIs or higher. So I'm watching my gauges. It should go to 120 or more. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll slow down, okay? I'm going to also cut my headlights on. Anytime you're operating your bus, you should always have your headlights on. Your ID markers come on automatically, so you don't have to worry about them. System. I always start from the top to the middle to the bottom, then from the left to the middle to the right. That way you won't miss nothing. Okay? It works pretty good for everybody, so I suggest to do it that way. Some things you could check more than one at one time too, so I'll show you how to do that. Sound that lets me know my air governor just cut off at 125 PSIs. Whatever it cuts off at, that's what you tell them that number is. Do not guess or do not just say 120. If it's at 125, 130, you tell them whatever number it goes off at, okay? So mine just cut out at 125 PSIs, which is good. All right? So now I'm getting ready to do what we call the air leakage test. That's the next test. All of this is part of your air brake. That's the first part. The second part is the air leakage test, which I'm now going to shut my bus off, turn my key to the right, make sure my foot is on my brake, and you want to cover that brake the whole time, okay? I'm going to push in my parking brake and also my service brake, and I'm going to hold it for 1 minute and 10 seconds, and I need my instructor to please time me. In that 1 minute and 10 seconds, I'm looking to make sure I'm not losing more than 3 PSIs in that 1 minute and 10 seconds, okay? That means I'm losing air if it does. So I'm going to cut my key off, turn it to the right, push my service brake and my parking brake in at the same time. Once it settles, that clicking noise, then I'm going to ask my instructor, can you please time me for 1 minute and 10 seconds so I can make sure I'm not losing more than 3 PSIs in my 1 minute. So the time begins. You're going to have to really push this brake down and hold it. If you don't, you're going to start seeing your needle move, which means you're letting air out your tank. And that's not what you want, okay? As long as that needle is sitting still, you good. But you got to use that muscle, okay? Because these brakes on these buses are tight. They're not as tight on the special needs, but on these they are. So I'm holding for 1 minute and 10 seconds. My needle's not moving, which is a good thing, means I'm not losing any air at this point. When my instructor tells me my time is up, then I'll go from there. I'm just estimating right now. Right?
It's 20 seconds left.
Okay. Ouch.
All right, that's the time.
Okay. I'm going to tell my instructor, you notice I'm still holding this, right? I haven't let it go. I'm going to tell my instructor I did not lose any air out of my tanks, which is a good thing. So now I'm getting ready to do my low air warning test, which at 60 psi's, I'm going to fan my service brake down to 60 psi's. At 60 psi's, my emergency warning light should come on and my buzzer should come on. Okay. When you see it getting close, just slow down, but don't stop. All right. Once that light comes on and you hear that buzzer, push that brake down and hold it again, because you don't want the needle to keep moving.
Right.
And you let the instructor know my warning light came on and my alarm came on at 65 psi's, which is good. Okay. Now I'm going to continue to fan my brakes down to make sure my emergency parking brake works, which by the time I fan it down to 45 psi's, no lower than 20, my knob should pop out. Okay. It popped out. I'm still holding my brake, and it lets me know that my parking brake is working properly. Okay. Now I'm going to you see I'm never taking my foot away from my brake. Okay, in case something happens, I have to apply it. Now I'm getting ready to do the start the bus back up and allow my air governor to build back up to 120 psi's or higher, and it should cut out. Okay. At this point, once this pop out, you don't have to push down on the brake no more, but you still got to keep your foot covered.
Okay.
Now, once I do say I'm getting ready to wait for my air governor, I can help it out a little bit by revving it up to 12 RPMs and hold it. Once the warning light goes out and the buzzer goes off, I can let it build up the rest of the way by itself. Okay. This just to help it along quicker. Again, you see that? I don't have to apply it, just cover it until it reaches 120 and the air governor cuts out. You have 45 minutes from beginning to end to do your whole entire pre-trip, which you can do it in 20-25 if you really know it. Now we do this for you couple of days, but then we expect you to study too, so you can perfect it. Okay, they're not going to let us do this with you for 2-3 weeks.
Right.
They're not going to do that. So that's another reason why I tried to let you videotape it. That way, if you got any questions, you can always relay back to that, and it'll give you your answer. But I'll exchange numbers with you too, so if you have any questions, you can just call and I'll let you know. Just cut out at 125 psi's, which means my tanks are full. All right, now I'm getting ready to do my parking brake test. I'm going to put my bus in, cover my service brake with my foot, I'm going to put my bus in drive. I'm not going to touch that, okay? Just put my gear in drive. And I'm going to rev my gas, my engine up to 12 RPMs and hold it for a few minutes. Take my foot off, put it back on the brake, put my bus back in neutral. I know my parking brake is working fine because my bus did not move, okay? Now, the service brake test, you only have to explain. You don't have to do it, you have to explain it. Now, how you would explain it, I'm going to unchock my wheel. I'm going to come back. I'm going to turn my bus on. I'm going to cover my service brake. I'm going to put my bus in drive. I'm going to release my parking brake. I'm going to accelerate 5 miles per hour. I'm going to apply my brake. My bus should stop immediately, and it should not pull to the left or the right. If it pulls to the left or the right, that means my brakes need adjusting, and I will report that on my pre-trip. Okay? I'm going to put my bus back in neutral, reset my parking brake, and put it back in neutral, and that's how I'll do my service brake. Okay? And that concludes my air brake part of the test. Now I'm ready to move on to everything else. So at this point, I'm just going to cut it off, turn it to the right, to auxiliary, and I'm getting ready to do everything else.
Got you.
All right, so I'm going to start at the top, to the middle, to the bottom, in front of me first, okay? I'm going to check all of my mirrors. You see what my hand's doing? I'm checking all of my mirrors. They're mounted and secured. The nuts and bolts are present, not missing. They're not broken, damaged, clean, and properly adjusted for me. Okay, now moving down to my windshield. My windshield's mounted and secured. It's not broken, it's not cracked, it's not damaged. It has no illegal stickers to obstruct my view and no dirt in my viewing area. Okay, I'm checking the seals around my windshield to make sure that they're intact, they're not cracked, frayed, dry rotted, and they're not leaking. I'm checking my windshield wiper blades. They're mounted and secured. They have proper tension to my windshield. My blades are not dry rotted or damaged. My hoses are properly connected and not leaking, no pinholes. Okay? And I will demonstrate that they're working properly by cutting them on and by releasing the fluid to make sure that it releases properly and it clears properly. Okay? And I'm going to cut it off. All right. Now, I'm getting ready to start from my left to the middle to the right. All right. Outside of my window is my circuit breaker box. That's all you got to say, okay? It's located outside my window. All right. Now, I'm getting ready to check all my heaters. I'm going to cut each one. I hear my rear heater working properly. You hear it? Cut it off. My stairwell. I hear my stairwell heater is working properly. I hear my driving heater and defroster. Wave your hand across the top and the bottom. Both are working properly. Cut them off. Okay? You don't have to do the dome lights. Now, I'm going to check all my indicator lights at this point. I'm checking my left signal. I see it on my dash, and I see it in my crossview mirror. I'm going to check my right signal. I see it on my dash, and I see it in my crossview mirror. I'm checking my hazards, which you always reach around, not through the wheel, okay? I'm checking my hazards. I see them working on my dash, and I see them working in my crossview mirrors. Cutting them off. Okay. My low beams are working properly. I can see them in my crossview mirrors. They're already on. Now I'm checking my high beams. I know they're working because I see the blue indicator light on my dash, and I can see them in my crossview mirrors. All right. All right. Come on, cut off. You don't pull it hard enough, it won't cut off. Okay. All right. So I've checked all those indicator lights right there. So I'm gonna move what's right next to it. My service door. Checking my service door from the inside, make sure it opens and it closes properly from the inside. I'm moving on over. I'm going to cut on my master flasher, which is the on and off button for my amber and my reds. All right, I cut that on and I hit the button next to it. I'm checking my amber warning lights. I can see them on both my dashes, and I can see them in my crossview mirrors. All right, I'm just gonna hit my override button. That's gonna release my stop signs, my crossbar. I see them working on my dashes. I see my stop signs have fully employed, and the lights on both of them are working properly. I can see them in my mirror, and I can see my loading and unloading lights working in my crossview mirrors. Okay, now I cut that off, and I cut that off. Okay. All right, now I'm ready to get up out this chair. Am I going too fast?
No.
You good?
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? Because I know my nose is.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm getting ready to check my body fluid kit and my first aid kit. I'm also going to check my 3 reflective triangles and my 3 liquid 30-minute flares that are connected right there. They're all mounted and secured. Nuts and bolts are present. They're not damaged. They're fully stocked, and they're not damaged, okay? So booyah. Oh, I'm also checking my ABC fire extinguisher. It's mounted and secured. It's not missing any nuts or bolts, and it's fully charged in the green, not leaking. Okay. From there, I'm going to my one camera. I'm short, so but you would just touch that, right? It's my camera is mounted and secured. It's not missing any nuts and bolts. The lens is not cracked or broken, and I will check each of my cameras the same way I just checked this one. Okay. Now I'm going to check my frame. My frame to my seat is properly mounted and secured to the floor. Not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not bent or damaged. Checking my cushions to make sure they're properly mounted and secured to the frame, and they're not damaged, torn, or ripped. I will check each frame and each seat the same way I just checked this one. Okay? If you won't say that, you're going to be checking each one. So you see how much time you save, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
why.
wording is everything. I'm checking all my emergency labels to make sure they're secured to my bus. They're not damaged or lifted. And I will check each label the same way I did this one. I'm going to check my emergency window by lifting up my latch, pushing out. Make sure it opens, closes, and latches properly, and I can hear my alarm going off. And I will check each emergency window the same way I did this one. Okay? All right, I'm going back here. I'm checking my emergency door. Lift my handle, push it out, make sure it's mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts, it's not damaged. It latches properly, and I can hear my alarm going off. Okay? Now, let me get right here. Go to that. I'm short. All right. I'm getting ready to check my emergency hatch. I'm simply going to just take my hands and... Oh, this thing's hard. Ah! Whew! These things are so hard to push up. I don't understand. Ah, it's some little spaces right here you put your fingers in. Push each side up. Then I'm going to turn this, and then I'm going to lift it. I'm checking my emergency hatch. Make sure it's mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. That the alarm goes off properly, and that it latches properly. And this has to go back in that little slot. You see it? Once it fits in there, then I turn this handle. It has to go back in there. There we go. Turn that. Once you hear the alarm go off, you know you got it right. And then you just pull it. And put your hands in here and pull this side down. Okay? I said everything I had to say. So then now, I'm going to check my other emergency hatch the same way I did this one. Oh, y'all. All right. Whew. Price you pay is short. All right, now you get ready to go outside. So at this point, you come up here. You're going to cut your headlights off. Okay, because if you don't, the LMP light is not going to work.
Okay.
So I cut that off, and I'm going to hit that and hold it. You see, all the lights just came on? All right, they're on a timer.
Right.
If it goes off, don't worry about it right now because I'm just going over everything with you. But it's on a timer, so you want to try to be able to check all your lights before your timer go off. But if it does, just go back on there and cut them back on. Once you get off, I did my 3-point contact coming off. Checking my stairwell light. Make sure it's mounted and secured. Not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not cracked. It's not broken. In the proper color, which is clear. I'm checking my handrails, top and bottom, to make sure they're mounted and secured. Not missing any nuts or bolts, and they're not damaged. Checking my stairwell tread. Make sure it's mounted and secured. It's not lifted. It's not torn, and it's not damaged. Okay. Checking my service door. Make sure it's properly mounted and secured. All the nuts and bolts are present, not missing. The glass is not broken or cracked. The seals are intact and not crack, frayed, or dry rotted. All right, then you want to come here, flip this, come in the front. Now, I'm checking all my lens covers. They're all mounted and secured. They're not broken, they're not cracked, they're not damaged, there's no condensation, and they are the proper color. My 3 amber ID markers, my amber warning lights, my red loading and unloading lights, my hazards and left and right turn signal, upper and lower, left and right. And I'm checking my headlights, left and right, on high and low beam. Okay? I'm checking my crossbar. Make sure it's mounted and secured. All the nuts and bolts are present. It's not broken or damaged. I'm checking underneath my bus to make sure there's no puddles, which could indicate a leak. I'm also making sure my bus is not leaning, which could indicate a broken spring leaf or a flat tire. You really don't have to say that, but I still do. All right, now I'm going to check my mirror bracket. It must be mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not bent, damaged, and my mirror is properly secured to my bracket, not broke or damaged. My wires are connected, and they're not cracked, frayed, or dry rotted or burned. I will check each of my mirror bracket and mirrors in the same manner as I did this one. Okay. All right. I'm checking my ID markers, my turn signals, and my hazards, and my reflectors. I'm checking all of them to make sure they're properly mounted and secured. Not missing any nuts or bolts. They're not they're the proper color, and they had no condensation. Amber to the front and the middle, and red to the rear. Okay? Also my reflectors, amber to the front, middle, and red to the rear. And they're secured to the bus and not damaged. Checking my reflective tape. Make sure it's secured to the bus. It's not lifted or damaged or torn. Alright? Then I'm going to check my DEF compartment. My DEF door is properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It latches properly. I'm checking the cap to make sure it's secured. It's not leaking and it's not damaged. I'm checking my tank, DEF tank, to make sure it's properly mounted and secured to the frame to make sure there's no leaks, no damages. Okay. All right, let's roll this way. I will check underneath my bus. I'm checking my frame and my cross members and my cargo floor. They all must be mounted and secured, not bent, broken, or cracked, not missing any nuts or bolts, and no broken welds. My cargo floor must not have any holes in it. Okay? I'm listening for my air tank to make sure that I have no leaks. All right. Checking my fuel compartment door. Mounted and secured, nuts and bolts present, not bent, broken, or cracked. It latches properly. The cap is present. It's tight and it has no leaks. I will check the fuel line to make sure it's properly connected. It's not leaking and it has no pinholes in the fuel line. Okay? And I will check the tank to make sure it's secured, not bent, broken, cracked, damaged, or leaking. You're almost saying the same thing over and over again. You hear it, right? Then you check that the same way. The only difference with this, you're saying fuel line. That has no fuel line. All right, come on back here. Lights are still on. See how we rolling? Because we're knocking out more than one thing at one time. All right, again, I'm checking all of my lens covers to make sure they're mounted and secured. The nuts and bolts are present. No condensation. They're not cracked or broken in a proper color. It just went out.
Yeah.
All right. Red ID markers are in the center. My amber warning lights. My red loading and unloading lights. my hazards and turn signals in the rear, left and right, and my, yeah, I said hazard and turn signals in the rear are working properly, left and right, and my brake and park lights in the middle, and my reverse lights are clear, and also my brake and park lights top and bottom, okay, and then my tail lights, okay. Again, my turn signals and hazards in the rear, left and right. My park and brake lights in the rear, top and bottom, working properly. My reverse lights are clear and my tail light red. Okay? I'm checking my reflective tape. Make sure it's secured to the bus. It's not lifted or damaged. And it's the proper color, amber. I'm checking my emergency door. Here's where you will open it all the way. Allow it to latch. And making sure that it's secured and working properly, and I just push it to release it. See that? And my alarm is still going off. All right, so this side, I'm gonna check this side of my bus the same way I did the other side. Only difference on this side, I had 3 different components, okay? My stop sign is mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not damaged. There are no burnt or low-hanging wires. My lens covers are secured and not broken or cracked. No condensation. I will check the other stop sign the same way I did this one. Moving on down. I'm checking my red light running camera. It's mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not damaged. The lenses are not missing or broken. Alright, now I'm going to check my battery compartment. I'm going to check my battery door, make sure it's mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. Excuse me, it latches properly. I'm checking my battery tray. Make sure it's mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not damaged. Making sure my batteries are mounted and secured to the tray and not leaking or damaged. I'm checking my cables and hoses to make sure they're properly connected, no sign of corrosion, and they're not leaking. Okay? Now, I'm going to check my engine compartment. Always hold it, don't let it come down hard because you can break your lens covers like that. Okay? Alright, here goes the part everybody thinks is so hard. I'm going to start out with checking all of my wires and my hoses. They're all properly connected. They're not cracked, frayed, dry rotted, burnt. My hoses are not leaking. I see no pinholes. And they have the proper clamps on them. Okay? Alright, now I'm checking my oil and my power steering dipsticks. I'm going to pull them out, wipe them off, reinsert them. Pull them out, check for proper level. Should be between add and full, reinsert. Okay? Now I'm going to check my coolant reservoir and my power steering reservoir. They both must be mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. They're not leaking. They should be between add and full, and they have proper clamps. Okay? Alright, now I'm going to check my power steering gearbox. It must be mounted and secured, not missing any nuts or bolts. It's not cracked or damaged, not leaking. Checking my steering shaft. Make sure it's properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. It's not bent or broken, and it's properly lubed. Okay. I'm checking my front and my rear. See that big box right there? Square box. My front and my rear spring mounts. I'm checking my leaf springs and my U-bolts. They're all mounted and secured. They're not missing any nuts or bolts. They're not cracked or damaged. My leaf springs are not shifted, and my U-bolts are properly secured to my leaf spring, and they're not missing. Okay? Now I'm going to check my pitman arm, drag link, and tie rod. Pitman arm, drag link, tie rod. They all must be mounted and secured. Not missing any nuts or bolts. They're not cracked. They're not damaged. Their joints are properly connected. And they're not missing any hazelnuts or cotter pins. They're not worn or damaged. Okay. Now I'm checking my brake line and hoses. Make sure they're properly connected. They're not, no pinholes. They're not leaking, and they are secured. So I missed. Oh, my shock absorber. Right here. The shock absorber must be mounted and secured. All the nuts and bolts present. It's not broken or damaged. It's not bent, and it's not leaking. Okay. Now inside my wheel, I'm checking my brake caliber. No, my brake. Give me a minute. My brake lining and my brake pads. No, it's something else. My brake lining. Yeah, my brake lining and my brake pads. They in the inside. They properly secured. They're not missing any nuts or bolts. They're not damaged, and they have no contaminants such as grease, water, or dirt, which can affect the braking power. Okay. I'm checking my tire. Oh, I'm also going to check the other side of my engine the same way I did this side. Now I'm going to check my tire. I'm checking to make sure it's evenly worn. No ply showing. The tire depth in the front should not be less than 4 and 32 seconds. It should not be less than 2 and 32 seconds in the rear. I would check it with depth gauge. I'm checking the inner and outer tire walls to make sure there's no rips, cuts, or abrasions or bulges. I'm also going to check my rim to make sure it's secured to my wheel. There's no damages. There's no illegal welding. It's not bent. I'm checking all of my lug nuts to make sure they're all present. They're tight. There's no sign of silver threading or rust, which can indicate looseness. I'm checking my valve stem to make sure it's accessible. It has a cap on it. It's not damaged and it's not leaking. I will check all of my tires, rims, lug nuts, and valve stems the same as I did this one. And that concludes my pre-trip.